Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Sanhedrin, Lights On, out March 4th on Metal Blade Records. The album has 8 tracks, 41 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are an American heavy metal band. As far as the design goes, this album brings together two different approaches. On one hand, you have an album that's very dynamic, very volatile, changing constantly from song to song. On the other hand, you have an album that keeps its spinal cord intact. The essence of this album doesn't really change from song to song, making the album feel more linear, more connected, more balanced. When you bring these two worlds together, you allow yourself to have diversity of approach, diversity of execution from song to song, making the album feel more impactful, more engaging, but still all being part of a much larger picture. Each song is just a piece of the puzzle. When you bring them all together, they all look different, but put together in the right place, at the right time, in the right format, you can see exactly what this album is going to be all about. I love this design, I love this approach. It allows it to be creative, it allows it to create movement. It doesn't become monotonous, it doesn't become redundant, it's not overbearing for the listener. Having 8 tracks, 41 minutes helps the playability, bringing everything together at the right time, in the right place, making this a very fluid, engaging, and interesting album all around. As far as the soundscape is concerned, this is an old school heavy metal record. It doesn't have any elements of what the future holds or where we are currently. It's all about how the genre really started. It's an album that feels like it was stuck in a time capsule from the 70s and brought into today's modern time. When you listen to it, you're going to identify the creativity or the essence that inspire that creativity. This is a record that has some psychedelic elements, some doom elements, punk rock, classic heavy metal, bands like Motorhead, Black Sabbath, really well represented throughout this entire album. And you can see those influences and how they change the perception and how they change the soundscape from song to song. But overall, what connects the album, the elements that bring it all together, is really what allows this album to work the way it does. It's a very rich sounding album. It feels like it has a soul, it has substance, it doesn't feel hollow. It has movement, it has quality with that movement, and it feels very rich in terms of what it gives to the listener. Now the soundscape is really defined by the drums and guitars. I love the bass, and the bass really pops throughout the entire record, but it doesn't have the same impact that you see on the drums and guitar side. And this is a very heavy driven guitar album. Not to say that the guitars are heavy, but they just have a very heavy role in terms of how you're going to perceive this album. But I really enjoy the drums. I want to start there. I like the drum sound. A lot of the soul, a lot of that essence that this album holds is coming from the drums. And I like the fact that the drums at times push some more heaviness into the forefront, normally towards the end of the tracks. That becomes a little bit of a norm, becomes something that you can detect early on, and you can see that consistency happening throughout the record, something that holds the album together. Now, outside of that heaviness towards the end of the tracks, you're going to see substance, you're going to see grounding, allowing this album to have a sense of balance, to have a sense of structure, to have a sense of purpose. The drums are not sitting in the back seat, they're not sitting in the driver's seat, they're sitting in the passenger seat. They play a very important role in terms of the overall soundscape. Now, on the driver's seat, you definitely have the guitars. The guitars push this album forward. They drive the experience. They take the direction. A lot of the movement that this record has is really pushed by the guitar sound and what is happening on that front. You're going to see a lot of explosive elements in the guitar solos. This also becomes one of those key elements that stays very grounded or stays very connected, not necessarily repetitive, but very connected throughout the entire record. You always see them using the solos to expose a little bit of bright and light to the way their sound comes across, because some songs are very dark on this record or have a very dark presence on this album. So using the solos to push some light, some brightness, some energy, some power to the songs, it's really important. It allows everything else to stay constant, everything else to stay connected, and then you just have that explosive moment that really ignites the track, and it captures the attention of the listener. You also have an incredible vocalist in Erica. She has the voice for this sound. She has the soul for this sound. When she's singing, you could feel like she understands what the lyrical content is all about. She feels that lyrical content. It becomes part of her, and her voice becomes the conduit for you to understand exactly where she's coming from with it. She has great tone, great delivery, super consistent from start to finish, and I like the fact that they use quite a bit of layers, backing vocals in the chorus, not to change the dynamic of the song, not to change the volume or the heaviness, but really give her a little bit more of a push and allowing those choruses to be more impactful, making them hookier, making them catchier. And that was something that also stayed very consistent throughout. So you have three elements that really guide, that bring this whole record together. They become the essence of the album. The drums, in terms of how they're used with a little bit of heaviness towards the end of the tracks, the guitar solos with the energy and the explosive nature that they have, and then the use of those backing vocals, those layers, in order to really push those choruses into the forefront. This is what unifies this album. An album that, in my opinion, sounds magnificent. It has great playability, 8 tracks, 41 minutes. You never really get tired of listening to this record because you have different experiences, song in and song out. It doesn't become monotonous. This is pretty much a Black Sabbath record if they had a female vocalist. That's exactly how this album comes across. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Changes Takes Forever. This is my favorite song on the album, perhaps the hookiest, catchiest song on the entire record. The verses have some heaviness to it, have some bite, they have some built-in chaos, if you will, because the verses are just all over the place. It's just constant movement from the drums, from the guitars. The vocals try to keep everything under control, but there's a lot of movement as far as the verses of this track is concerned, making the song feel more dynamic. Then the chorus feels a little bit more linear. It feels a little bit more controlled. There's a little bit more melody. Those layers, those backing vocals really help push the voice into the forefront, allowing the overall chorus to become more memorable, more engaging. And this is what becomes the key factor of the song, because when you listen to this track and you're navigating through all the chaos, all the dynamic movements of the song, you're always looking forward to the chorus, because you know the chorus is going to sound so good, it's going to be so appetizing. It's really what brings you in. So I love the hookiness that it has, and then I love how the song finishes off with a little bit of a heavier drum sound towards the end of the track, something that you're going to see quite a bit throughout the entire album, but allowing the song to come full circle, a song that also has a very explosive, very energetic style solo that matches the intensity, that matches the vibe that the track has. Next you have Scythian Woman, a very driven song. It feels at times like it's a punk rock track in terms of how much it pushes itself forward, and there's really no breaks on this song. It may feel like it's slowing down ever so slightly in the chorus, but it doesn't really slow down. It's still moving, it's still taking you forward. A track that has a lot of intensity, that has a lot of momentum. Once again, using backing vocals, some layers in the chorus, allowing that chorus to become more memorable, to jump into the forefront, to break the mold of how the vocals sounded in the verses versus the chorus. Really important. It has great solo sections, allowing the song to have several, well, at least two very explosive moments in those two solo sections. Great bass line all the way throughout, and they allow it to pop. Perhaps one of the songs where you can really hear the impact that the bass has in the overall song construction and in the soundscape as well. It has a sense of purpose, it's powerful, it's energetic. It's not a heavy track, but it's a track that has a lot of momentum. It just feels like it's coming at you with a lot of force. It has that punk rock nature to it in terms of how it's put together and the soundscape that it holds. Last but not least, Heroes End. This is a doom-laced track. I felt like I was listening to a Black Sabbath song. This song has a lot of Black Sabbath elements in it in terms of how you merge that slow movement and you create heaviness without necessarily creating a heavy sound. It's just a dark, somber track, moves very slow. It allows the listener to progress with it. Great guitar riff, a guitar riff that drags you through the mud as you're progressing through it. The vocals are outstanding because they match the energy or the lack of that the song has musically. It has all the right elements. Everything is pulling you in the same direction, just at a very slow pace. It's just barely moving, but everything is together. Everything has the same purpose. The sound, the vocals working really well as one in order to create a soundscape that also is very rich in terms of the atmosphere that it gives. I just love how Heroes End comes together, how slow it feels. It's a doom ballad almost. It's just really incredible track that just has such an impact, because there's no song that goes as deep into that doom cave, into that doom dungeon as this one does. This is it. Sanhedrin, Lights On, out March 4th on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.